Now, I'm not talking about real photo postcards or some really special, hard to find niche. That's a whole different animal. I'm talking about the normal postcard seller here. If you only have 250 postcards up, you're probably not selling a lot. So welcome back to SMPostcards. Today I did a special topic on a postcard I see all the time. And if you do average cards, I'm pretty sure you did too. St. Augustine, Florida postcards. So St. Augustine. It's the home of the fountain of youth, they say. So when we get into the special topic after I do the what sold, just some cards I sold today and some things, you'll understand a little bit of the history. I learned a lot from this video. I've never been to St. Augustine. I see the cards all the time. I have a lot of some of them. I don't list some of them anymore. A lot of them I still do, but there's some that I don't, because there's a lot of them out there. But St. Augustine, the history, just going through and understanding about it really helps me understand what these cards are about. But I sold 18 cards today on eBay, and I'll walk through those, and I sold 5 packs of sleeves on the Ko-Fi store. And I'll give you the average sale price at the end of that. I put a poll out. A lot of people ask me about, do I get a store or not get an eBay store? What's the benefits of having a store? During the poll I put out there, do you have an eBay store? And I did starter, basic, premium, anchor, or enterprise store. And we'll go through the stats on that and break down some of the stores, fees and stuff, what eBay offers and what it can do for you in the poll section after the special topic. And stick around, viewer comments. I have one longer comment in there from Chris that talked about the store and what he plans to do or what he wants to do. I put it in the special comments because it's kind of longer, but it hits on something that I don't know a lot about and I haven't really investigated as much yet. But if anybody out there has, when we get to that, has done this, you can comment and let us know. But that's the viewer comment section at the end. But let's go ahead and get into my what sold. So the first thing is I have the Ko-Fi store. It's CO or KO-FI, Ko-Fi, coffee. I call it Ko-Fi. Sounds cool. I have a lot of sleeves. I have a lot of reference materials, postcards. It's everything I put out there. And I have sleeves. Ryan bought 5 packs of sleeves. These are just from BCW. And they're for standard postcards. He got them for $2.25 a pack of 100. And he bought 5 of them. They're normally in the Ko-Fi store $3.75, but Ryan's a member of the Ko-Fi, SMPostcards Ko-Fi store, so he gets 40% off. He got these for $2.25. He saved $7.50 on 5 packs to what the regular price is on there. So if you're a member in that store, he's already got twice what he pays a month. He's a $3 member. So he gets $3, pays $3 a month to be a member of the Ko-Fi store, and he gets 40% off. So I don't make a lot of money in Ko-Fi if you're a member and stuff like that. It's just a place that I wanted to put stuff out there that resellers use a lot. And if I can get it for a good price and pass a little bit of that along, that's what that store is for. I'll set those to the side. But 18 cards. A lot of multiple people buying more than one card. First card I sold was Davy Crockett's Cabin. Davy Crockett's Cabin in Limestone, Tennessee. Kind of reminds me of Abraham Lincoln. Just a regular chrome card. That's what it sold, $4 to $5. Next one is one of those prints. This is a vertical card. This is the USS Power DD 839. I think it's an older ship. And the club printed these. I didn't. That sold for $4 to $5. Next is another ship, USS Denver, LBD 8 or 9. That's a publisher card. They actually purchased boxes of these cards. I have cases of these, $4 to $5. The first multiple order, as you've seen before, when I purchase trade cards, I get them for a pack for a quarter or whatever. These were Happy Day cards of the Fonz, Henry Winkler. And this was card Big Wheels for the Big Wheel. And he's writing that. Guy bought 2 of these for $14.82. So I split them up. Henry Winkler actually was afraid of motorcycles. He didn't like riding them, but little stunts like that he would do. But anything else, they said that they would get the stunt person to do. Did a video about Amish. They never sell. Guess what I sold? Amish sawmill. Right there. This was, I can't tell when it was posted, but it's just a chrome card of an Amish sawmill. $4 to $5. Don't sell many of those, but when I do, and there. This card here actually sold for $9.55. It's not an RPPC. It's printed. And Silvercroft, made by Dexter Press. So it's a Dexter Press card. The Lake, Stevens Engineering Camp, Johnsonburg, New Jersey. So there's some guy in the water in a boat, another couple swimmers to the right, and some swimmers out on the patio back there, the boat, and some swimmers there. So it's a nice little lake scene. That sold for $9.55. Next one is the von Humboldt statue, Humboldt Park, Chicago. White border card, unposted. This sold for $5.65. Another trading card sold. I bought a whole bunch of these Mars Attacks. Now these aren't the older ones. These are the newer set. The older set goes for a lot more, and I don't know if I would break that set up like I did this one. This is Blown Away by Mitch, number 30. Just a trade card. A longer card of the Mars Attack movie. There's the alien. That sold for $4 and $5. Next one is Newport, Rhode Island, Bailey's Beach. View of the cliff walk. Sold him $4 and $5. That beach didn't have a lot on there. It's an unposted, divided back. Next one, this gentleman bought 3 cards. Another trade card. It's a postcard, but it's kind of a trade card size. It's got a postcard back. It's got a number. It's pre-printed message. It's that Goofy series on there. This one's not posted. Number 16. That one sold. I put this card up a long time ago. My title was Postcard Family. That's all it is. A little photo postcard of a couple ladies in there. Sold $4 to $5. Postcard Family. Best title in the world. Then these comic cards. This is an older one, and this was posted in 1907. Be Wise. Thicker card. And you can tell that it's older just by the way it looks and the way it feels. So all 3 of these cards sold for $13.28. I have that bulk listing discount when they buy more than one card, volume discount, I call it volume discount. Have a video on that. It's great. So they get like 10 to 15% off when they buy 2, 3, 4 cards or more. And it basically gets people to add cards into their batch as they go through your store and stuff. It really helps out. A lot of people have used that, and they've commented that it's been really helpful. So you give a little bit of discount to them. Next person bought another 3 cards. This is the USS Torpedo Boat, or U.S. Torpedo Boat Destroyer Steward. This is $4 to $5. These don't sell any more than some of my other ships, and this was 1903. That one sold. Then he bought 2 covers, naval ship covers. It just says U.S. Navy up there, but it has something about insurance here. He bought 2 of these. This was 1944, and this was 1942. All of these will go together in one package to the person using eBay standard envelope on there, and he paid $14.65 for that. And I sold the flower. That's been in there a while. Passion flower. That's a passion flower. If you didn't know, now you learned something. Very informational video. Passion flowers. $4 to $5. Then this person I sold 2 cards to them for $8.38. This is Detroit Waterfront from Windsor. Now this has rounded corners, not from age. It's just the way that it's cut. It doesn't really add anything to the value. But it's a posted card, 1954 of Detroit. And then this one is Detroit Airport, Municipal Airport. And this is $4 to $5, a linen card. There's some planes on there and stuff. Airports do pretty good. You just gotta put them in there and do a research on them. But for the total, it was 18 cards for $102.31. And my average sale price for the postcards was $5.68. So that's still going up. $102, I'm over $70. And 18 cards, I'm over 14 cards. Those were my 3 goals for this year, and I beat it today. And the sleeves were, total order was $19.90 with shipping, and I'll pack those up, and if there's any savings on the shipping, I always send that back in Ko-Fi. I don't make money on shipping. Shipping is not a place I look to make money on. It's an expense that needs to be managed. There is handling part, and when I sold toys, all first class packages had 50 cents added, and all priority was 75 cents. So for every item. And that covered my time, materials, and stuff like that. But I always refunded excessive shipping. And when I combine shipping and stuff like that, I don't play games with shipping. It's just whatever it costs. And if the post office raises the fees, my stuff automatically goes up with calculated. Postcards this year with the fees going up, I looked at it. I don't think I'm going to raise too much anything. I'm still okay with my margins. But if they go up any more this year, I'll have to go up a nickel or something like that just to pass those. You have to pass some of that on. You can't absorb everything and keep losing. Now, if you start selling more cards, you can absorb some of it. But also, you don't want to price yourself out of range. But just remember, the postal charges is across the board. It's everybody. So everybody's on the same playing field. If you're in clothing and stuff, I think shipping means a lot. But when it comes to collectibles, people want it safely sent and stuff like that. I know one of these cards here, someone paid first class shipping for, and they want it first class. Now, if they buy priority, that's like going to the car wash. eBay standard envelope is they spray water, soap, dry your car. The next level up is first class. You get wax, and you get the guy spraying the back of your car. And then if you buy priority shipping, that's the whole works. That's the $20 car wash. You get the spit polish and the whole works if you buy priority. And I price it at the level where it's basically the cost anywhere in the United States. It's going to cover basically the cost of priority. So I always offer eBay standard envelope, first class, and priority. They can pick what they want, and this gentleman picked first class. I don't get too many of those. I don't get too many priorities, but when I do, I do not do overnight expedited shipping. Did that once years ago. Didn't have the product. It's guaranteed to a point. It's just a pain. It's not worth it. I tell them they need to go to someone else that does that. If someone needs a postcard overnight, they need it more than I can do. So I don't even offer it, and I declined anybody that ever asked that stuff. I don't do it. It's not, I just don't see it, and I don't want to go through all the hassle. But that's what's sold. St. Augustine postcards. St. Augustine, Florida. Just interesting, because I see these cards all the time. Same with New Orleans and some of these other things, but St. Augustine, there's just a lot of history, a lot of postcards. Linens, chromes, marine land, gates, fountains of youth, just a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go through and give you some history about St. Augustine that I thought was interesting. And I read a lot more than what I'm saying here. But there is so much out there about that place. Now, it's on the other side of Florida. We go to Florida, Siesta Key, every year. But we're on the Gulf side. This is over on the Atlantic side. But I'm going to give you a little history, some facts that I found I thought were interesting. And while I do that, I'm going to show you some postcards that I found for St. Augustine. So St. Augustine, Florida, and I'll just refer to as St. Augustine, was founded in 1565 by Spanish explorers, and that's important, Spanish explorers. It is the oldest continuously inhabited European established settlement in what is now the continuous United States. St. Augustine was founded on September 8, 1565 by Spanish Admiral Pedro Menendez de Alvarez, and I'll put his name right down here. I probably screwed it up. Florida's first governor. So he was the first, it was founded, and he was the first governor of Florida. The city's population was 15,065 in 2020. It has the narrowest street in the United States. The street is called Treasury Street, and there's an interesting fact here. And it's just 7 feet wide. The street connects the Royal Spanish Treasury to the area where the ships dock on the bay. It was deliberately made to be narrow so that thieves would not they would find it difficult to remove and escape with chests of gold from the treasury. So it was just enough to get the chest down in person, single file down the alley. So that's the narrowest alley in the United States, and it was made from the treasury to the dock so people couldn't steal the chest. Interesting. St. Augustine, it has only been directly hit by a hurricane once in modern times. It is also the home of the world's oldest Ripley, believe it or not, museum. The city's auditorium, they call it, opened in 1950, the year after Robert Ripley's death, and can be found in the Castle Warden. The building was once a hotel and is rumored to be haunted. It houses numerous strange and interesting artifacts, including the death mask of Abraham Lincoln. St. Augustine has the oldest wooden schoolhouse, and I'm sure you've seen that postcard. The historic building is claimed to be the oldest wooden school building in the United States. It is not known exactly when it was built, but the building appears on tax records in 1716. St. Augustine is the home of the Fountain of Youth. It is more than a name. The site of the current museum is near the vicinity of Juan Ponce de Leon, first landed in Florida in 1513. You can say the Fountain of Youth is the official and real fountain of youth. Marineland, on the fringes of the city, is the home to some incredible dolphin encounters right on the St. Augustine beaches. It was also the location where the majority of the science fiction monster movie classic, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, was filmed. I never knew that. So that's some facts about St. Augustine. A lot of interesting stuff. Some of the stuff I talked about here, you've probably seen postcards of. And the ones I showed you had a good mixture. What about the sell-through rate for St. Augustine postcards, and how many are out there? I was amazed how low the number was of listed as many postcards as I've seen, with lots and stuff. But sell-through rate is sold divided by listed times 100, and it's basically just the cards moving through the eBay system, not the dollars. This is just the number of cards. So I went out there and I put postcards St. Augustine, and I put Florida in there, just to make sure I capture Florida, not all this international stuff I was getting. And it seemed to be okay. 724 sold, 17,000 listed. That's only 17,000. I mean, New York has, what, 300,000, 500,000? But 17,000 times by 100 gives you a 4%. I thought it was going to be down in 2 or 3%, just how they don't move for me sometimes. 4% is an average card, because we vetted up against these other states. Montana, 8%, Texas is 7%, and Rhode Island, 6%, and then you get in North Dakota, 2%. So it's right at the bottom of the average. So it's an average card. But I think the RPPCs and stuff, as we'll see here in a minute, do a little bit better. But your alley cards, your linen cards, your oldest schoolhouse cards, there's just a lot of them out there. They're just not that rare or that hard to find. 4% sell-through rate. So if you get a box of Florida cards and it's 50% of St. Augustine, I wouldn't pay top dollar for them, because they're going to sit before they sell. Now if it's loaded with Marineland and some of the odd, harder to find ones, I would do a little more, but they're average cards. I wouldn't pay top dollar. There's nothing that special on there. Some of them are, like always. Overall, doing a quick look, average card. I remember one of the videos before I sent on a community thing about the seashell border with the inset on the card. And then there was that alligators with the border, kind of looked like the seashell border inset ones. Now I remember where I saw these at. Now I remember. And there's just so much to learn, so much to know. But look at these higher price cards that sold. This is a gator border. Vintage alligator border postcards. Seawall. Anything with seawall, you want to take a second thing, especially Galveston. If you haven't known the history of Galveston, why they built that seawall, just read about the disaster when that hurricane and stuff, that wave, the storm surge came through and just killed and just destroyed the town. That's why they built the seawall. So seawall is something I always look at. Postcard seawall and bathhouse, St. Augustine, Florida. $69 this card sold for. How many of these cards do you think are out there? Well, I did a little look here. I did a little clip here, and I went through and searched on my computer. But just look at all these. Just look at all these gator cards listed. There's one for $389. 224. These are listed alligator border postcards. It just goes on and on and on that are listed in here, and it just keeps going. And some of the pictures are different. They're up and down and different things like that, and it just keeps going and going all the way. That's the hundreds. This is the $100 ones, and they keep going, and they keep going, and on and keep going. So there's a lot of these out there, and a lot of them. Let's see what the lowest ones go all the way to the bottom here. So down here it says alligator $33. Then you get down to $11. So you got a full range. If you're going to list these, you're competing against all of those that are out there. So that's a little clip of how many of those border cards out there. So it's not gold, but it is higher cards. They do sell for higher than average prices. So you want to make sure if you get seashell borders, alligator borders like that, get those cards up there and bump them up, and do your research on those. But $69 for an alligator border from St. Augustine. Next one I found was postcard RPPC. So this is a real photo postcard developed on paper, not printed. And if you want to know about RPPCs, I did a little video here. I'm not an expert on RPPCs, and if I'm not for sure if it's an RPPC or not, because there is some on the fringe. Some you know right away by looking at the dots or not, and just with the stamp box on the back and stuff. But some can be close. I leave it up to the collector. I don't put RPPC. I just leave it up to the collector. I do price it up for an RPPC, but I don't put it in there if I'm not 100% sure. Postcard RPPC Florida St. Augustine Rapid Tourist 1917 Horse Street Card. Took a best offer on $59.99, $60. So both of those cards sold above around $60. Don't just throw Augustine away. There is some cards like this that have sold for higher amounts. But most of the ones you're going to see are like the ones I'm going to show you now. This is a sold high. We just talked about the alligator border that sold for $69, and I showed you how many are out there. This person, I think, could have got a little bit more if they waited. $27.67 for that. But it still did pretty good. It's above average. They probably paid a nickel or a dollar for that card. But you can get more for those cards, and that's what you want to keep in your mind. I didn't remember. I knew there was something about the alligator borders. I don't see them that often, and this is what it was. It's St. Augustine. And now I'm remembering some of them. I never had any. I don't remember having any, but I do look for those in the seashell all the time. Basically $30 for that card. Next one is St. Augustine Original First National Bank. So it's a bank, $21. And then you got the electric company trolley train. So this is a trolley train they got $20 for. So those are the average sold highs, not your big high ones I showed you just before. These are what you're going to see every day. But the alligator card here, I think, should be higher. Then you get into the so low. People get into these things. Postcards, St. Augustine. This is a very common card. It doesn't have a lot in the title. Just says a postcard for St. Augustine. Probably looks like one of my titles. But at least I would put the house. I think that's the oldest house in the States. Very common card. I would not list it for 99 cents. You're not making any money at all. By the time eBay fees are taken out, I would lot them up with a bunch of other St. Augustines, stuff like that. But listing a card for 99 cents, you're not making any money. And I proved that in some of the other videos with the calculator. It's just not there anymore. You got to go higher. The 99-cent auctions and stuff like that, you got to go higher. You got to start higher because of the fees. eBay, I think $1.54, the guy was still 25 cents, 24 cents in the hole. So there's nothing there. You got to go higher. Or just lot them up. People will buy a big lot of St. Augustines. Next one is the fort. I think this is the Castillo de San Marcos. I think that means Castle San Marcos. $1. I've sold that card many times before for $4 to $5 easily. Our Old City Gate. You will see the gates. That's another one. It's for $2. Lot them up. Do it in the schoolhouse. Put them all together in a St. Augustine lot. You're not making that much money on those. There's a lot of them out there about the gates. RPPCs of the gates might be different. Now let's look at the listed high. What people are listed. With the gators, as I showed you, I went out and I did a little more investigation. This gator card I got for $99.99. They see what I see with these gator cards. Is it high? I've seen some higher. I've seen them sell. So they're playing the market. I got best offer on. Maybe I get an offer for $70, $80 for it. Or 20 sold, 206 listed, and they have a sell-through rate of 9%. Next one is St. Augustine. Charlotte Street is another common card. This is listed for $45. I think a little high. Oldest home in St. Augustine, very common card. Both of those cards I think are way high. Lot them up. They're just part of the average cards. Listed low, 99 cents, $1.99. There's that gate again. Now the top one is Marineland. And you know why I like fish? I always price Marineland up. The one there, and I think there's one down in Miami and California also. The dolphin shows, they might sit a little bit, but I'm thinking about doing a video on Marineland and stuff like that and just see what the sell-through rate is for sure and do some research. But I always sell those higher. But 99 cents, the gate one, lotted up. And then the bottom one was a little different. I've seen this card before, something like this. This is an old Postcards, Marion Street Dungeon Room. This is the Dungeon Room card. And I've seen different variances of different Dungeon Room cards, and this is $1.95. That's probably one of the harder or unique ones that would be cool, that I would probably put up in the $4 to $6 range. But all the other ones, lot them up. St. Augustine, I would be picky about what you put up. It's kind of like Cypress Gardens. Putting pictures of the flowers up don't sell as well as putting pictures of the water skiers up. Stuff like that. To sum up at St. Augustine, I still look at them. I think the alley, the history is neat. RPPCs do well. The Fountain of Youth, different things down there. The real photo postcards. Look for the gators. Be picky. If you see a lot out there, look at the sold, look at the completeds. Just don't use eBay. Maybe WorthPoint or maybe go into Terapeak and look a little bit. But I wouldn't spend a lot of time on a lot of the linens, especially if the gate, the road, the schoolhouse, the oldest house, stuff like that. I wouldn't spend a lot of time. I'd put them in a lot and sell maybe 100 St. Augustine cards for a certain price. They're just going to sit if you do put them in there. And if you list them lower, like these people are doing for 99 cents, you're giving it away. You're not making anything by the time you pay the fees. Even if you got it for free, you're still not making any money. So be careful with them. That's St. Augustine, Florida. Postcards. Who knew? Now we're going to get into the poll. And this is a poll that people have asked me many times to talk about it. So I decided to put it out there, and I put it in a format that's pretty simple. I just put a poll that said, do you have an eBay store? Yes, a starter store, basic store, a premium store, anchor store, and no, I do not have a store. So the basic store was the number one that everybody had, and that's 48%. Next one was premium store. That's the one I have. I can have up to 10,000 listings plus an additional 50,000. So I can have basically 60,000 postcard listings in that select category, as we're going to get into here. I'll break it down a little bit so you understand what I'm talking about. And the basic store was 1,000 listings plus an additional listings, bringing up to 11,000, so an additional 10,000. So those two stores is where postcard sellers are mostly in there. Then the starter store is 3%. And if you have a starter store and you're selling postcards, unless they're very hard to find cards and special cards, yeah, I think you get like 200, 250 listings. We'll see in a minute. You're probably not selling that many cards because you need quantity. But starter store is a good place to start. And then an anchor store, 0%, the people that voted. And then the people that didn't have a store is 13%. And if you're selling postcards, one of the things I like to know is, why don't you have a store? As you go through here, you'll see some of the benefits of having a store. And if you want to be successful in selling postcards, remember what I always said. Average cards, the ones you see every day, quantity rules. You're hard to find, your real photo postcards and stuff like that, those sell themselves. I figure it's two separate niches, is what I always preach. So if you don't have a store and you're trying to play the listing game like the old eBay, I can put 30 up this month and I'll do more there. You need quantity. I didn't see a good return daily sales that I really liked and knew I could keep going until I hit about 5,000 or 6,000 cards. And a few other bigger sellers said the same thing. Some said 3,000, some said 8,000. It just depends. But about 5,000 to 6,000 cards is when everything started rolling, and it just kept going from there. So if you don't have a store, you can't use all the tools that a store gives you, and we're going to see that. But there was some people that commented here, and Three Wheeler said, seriously considering an eBay store. First would like to sell 5 to 10 items a day, and then maybe a store. My recommendation is get a starter store, because that's where you're going to learn all the tools. You're not going to be able to get the number of, you're going to have limits on your listing as well if you're new. When you get a store or you're a new seller, eBay is going to limit how many listings you can list. And you're going to have to ask for more. Press the button that says request more, or call them, because they want to make sure you're a good seller and you're not just listing and not able to ship them or handle the volume. So it's going to take a little bit of while, some time to get up there. So a starter store is a good start to learn the tools. You don't get all the whistles and bells, as we'll see here in a minute, with the basic and the premium, but it's something to learn how to manage and use a store. And then move up to a basic, and then if you really like what you're doing and it's successful, go to a premium. And we'll go through the prices of each one here in a second. But my recommendation, if you want to sell 5 to 10 items a day, you're going to need a store, and you're going to need the tools that come along with the store to get there. Without that, I don't think you're going to be able to get there, unless you're doing hard to find cards and stuff like that. But the average cards that most postcard sellers put up, and they need those to fill the hills and valleys, a store is the way to go. Thanks, Three Wheeler. Eric Gunter said, was contemplating upgrading to a premium store, but then they raised the basic store free listings from 250 to 1,000. And in the collectibles category for postcards, you can put another 10,000 up. So basically you got 1,000 plus 10 is 11,000. Now they change this stuff once in a great while or whatever. So you always want to not just listen here, but when you go to do it, you want to go look on eBay and make sure you understand what the rules are. And if you have to, call them, and just to verify, because things can change. They can make changes to what I'm saying here, but at this time and point when this video is recorded, this is what the statistics are. So always double check eBay when you go to make monetary decisions or changing some stuff. Because more free listings was the main reason I was thinking of upgrading. Yes, there's a point where you, from going from a starter to a basic to a premium to an anchor, there's a point where it's more cost beneficial to have a store and not worry about listings. You don't want to worry about listings. You don't want to worry about how many free listings you have and stuff like that. I know a lot of people do that, sell and relist, or sell and or end and sell similar. They run through their listings in the store, so they go up to the next one, and they can only do it so many times because they got so many listings. They're managing it that way. But a store, when you get to a, say, a basic store, and you get up to say 11,000 listings, do you move to a premium? You could probably do another 500 listings without the cost of the premium, but I always tell people just jump. You don't want to worry about that stuff. Once you take listings off the table, it opens up a whole different conversation. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Three, for those comments. Now, when I went out to eBay, what you want to do a lot of times, you just go out to your seller hub, and at the top it says help. Just type in store, or go out to Google and say eBay store, subscription. You can find a lot of information. So I found two sentences here, or paragraphs from eBay, that kind of explains what a store is. Subscribing to an eBay store lets you bring together all your listings in a single branded location. Store subscriptions also give you access to additional tools to manage your business. Without a store, you don't have access to those tools. Along with discounted fees, there is a little bump, a little cost savings between a basic and a premium, I think like 7 cents, and then going to an anchor. Not like it used to be, but there is some little cost that we saw in the hospital video where I did the calculation. There was a little bit of a savings there. And it can add up over time, so anytime you can save something is good. And an increased number of free listings per month. Take listings off the table. When I had employees, I had a team of people, and we paid them well. And the reason we paid them well is because we didn't want to talk money all the time. Once I gave them a wage that they can live on and they were happy with. Now, people are not happy with everything they make. And money is a short-term motivator anyway. If I give someone $1,000 a month raise, they're going to start living at that $1,000, and in 3 months they're going to say they're not making enough money, they want more money. It's a short-term motivator. But once you get to a level and you're paying the people right and they can live, do their lifestyle and everything, the conversations change. But if you're paying your people under what they're worth and they know it and stuff all the time, you're going to have different conversations. So listings is the same way. Don't worry about free listings and stuff. Just get it off the table. Pay up to get it off the table, and you'll see how your conversations and the way you see things change. You're going to be more focused on the quality of listings than the number of listings. Then there's 5 levels of eBay store subscriptions: starter, basic, premium, anchor, and enterprise. I'm not going to talk much about enterprise. That's for the huge people that it's just way out of whatever I'll ever do, and most of us do. I'll hit on it a little bit, but I'm not going to get deep down. There's just so much to it. You can buy listings, and you need it's big. eBay store package has its own fee structure for each one, with differing discounts on insertion and final value fees and varying number of free listings. So that's the key. You want to go and compare on there. So here's a breakdown. If you go to your eBay and you go up to the top where it says SMPostcards, and you do the drop down and you go to the subscriptions or whatever, and you see store and you say change. You're not changing it. You'll see where you're at here, and this is what pops up for mine. So on the left there you get the starter. Now you can pay it by the year and they'll bill you monthly. You don't have to pay the whole thing at once, but paying by committing to a year gives you some considerable savings. So the 2 numbers I'll give here is if you do it by the month, or if you've committed to a year. Now, if you committed to a year, 12 months, and you terminate and close the store in 6 months or 7 months or 3 months, there will be a pretty steep termination fee, because you committed to them that you're going to do that. So there will be a termination fee. Now, when I closed my toy store at the end of last year, and in January, I actually took the termination fee because it was cheaper over the next 3-4 months for me to do that, pay that termination fee, than to pay the fee for the store. So there was a decision there. I was paying for nothing, but I was saving if I would just leave it open and paid every month. So that's how you want to look at those fees. And I closed everything out of that store. So there was nothing to sell. So the reason to have it, but it was cheaper to close it early and pay the termination fee. It wasn't that much, because I waited. I only had like 2 or 3 months left. And they'll tell you in there if you terminate what that charge will be, and they'll hit you for that too. But the starter store is if you committed for a year, it's $4.95 a month. Without it, it's $7.95, so $3 savings. $4.95 a month, and you're going to see how many listings you get with that. But $4.95, that's one postcard, the average postcard. One postcard you sell, the first postcard you sell every month, pays for a store. The basic store, $21.95 if you committed for a year, $27.95 if you didn't. So there's a savings there. $21.95, that's 5 $4 postcards, or 6. So the first 5 or 6 postcards pays for your store. Gross sales, I'm not doing all the expenses, but it's basically 6 to 8 postcards. So your first day, you pay for your store. Then you jump to premium. That's where I'm at, is the premium, and it's $59.95 a month, and I'm on it, committed for a year. And without that, it would be $74.95. Now, to tell you a little story, when I was doing the toy store, and I was doing postcards inside the toy store, I had metrics because I was selling, I had 6,000 to 8,000 listings of action figures and hard goods and stuff like that. And when I started selling the postcards in there, I did the first class and priority. I didn't do ship by a stamp and a label. eBay standard envelope wasn't around then. What I found out is people didn't want to pay $4 to $5 first class for a $4 or $5 postcard. It didn't make sense. And plus, when they did buy them, I went to doing it with a stamp and a label, but that started hurting the metrics and just really badly messing everything up. So I said, I got to split this up. So I created SMPostcards, and started relisting all the things over to there, plus listing in there. But it took me 3-4 months to get up to where they weren't giving, since it was a new store, I didn't have to list. I would hit my listing limit every month real quick, so I had to wait till the next month. I'd call them and they'd give me a little bit more. And finally, I'm now at, it's millions or billions or whatever they have me set up for in the postcard store. To go from the toy store to a basic store and a premium, they didn't have the starter and stuff like that back then. Well, then I maxed out the premium store and I went to an anchor store. I was paying $300 a month. That's 3 postcards a day, 3 or 4 postcards a day I had to sell just to pay the store fees every month, $300. And you could only back then have 10,000 cards listed. And I was at the level. And I wasn't going to enterprise. I wasn't paying $3,000 a month. So I was kind of like in limbo. So we were paying $300 a month for an anchor store. So then, back in the, 2 years ago or something, they made a change. They said that in a premium store, you can have, not the anchor store that I was on, but in the premium, one down, they're going to add 50,000 more free listings for the price of there in select categories. And postcards was in that category. So I got 10,000 plus 50,000. Now in the beginning, when I first started doing this video, I thought it was just 50,000 was my max. But talking to people like Kelly, he reset me and said, no, it's Mark, it's 10,000 plus 50,000. So I can have 60,000 postcards in a premium store for basically $60 a month, and I'm paying $300. I said, really? So I talked to some people, then I called eBay then and said, is this right? And they said, yeah. So as soon as I downgraded to a premium store, I didn't get a termination fee. They waived all that, and my contract was coming up anyway. I saved, everybody saved in the postcard world that had an anchor store that had $240. That day, we saved $240 a month. What other company does that? It was great. And we didn't believe it. We thought they'd take it away right away or whatever, and they haven't. It's been there, and you can have 60,000 listings in a premium store, where before we were paying $300 a month. So that and eBay standard envelope was probably the best things I've ever seen in eBay. So, but those are the store things. But they'll automatically take this out of your account every month if you sign up for a year. If you do it monthly, you can do that. They'll take that out as well. Now, what is in each one of these stores? Now, I'm not an expert on stores because you don't sign up for these things all the time. It's been a while since I really reviewed a lot of the stuff because I kind of know it. But over here, you can see the check marks. The starter store, you get the promotion manager marked on it. You can run sales. You can do promotion manager coupons, I think. Subscriber discounts, store homepage, link to the store. One thing you don't get with the starter is you don't get TerraPeak, which is the resource tool, where you can do lookups like WorthPoint. It's under resource and then research or resource or something like that. You don't get that. Then you move over to the basic store, and that's where TerraPeak comes in. So that's an additional check mark. And then when you go to the premium, that's the same thing. I think there is discounted fees a little bit between basic and premium. And then Anchor Store, you actually get a dedicated customer support number. And I have one of those, but I don't call eBay that often. But if you need to, you get an Anchor Store, you get a little special person to talk to. Then the Enterprise is something you can look at that on your own time. I don't think anybody here will go in Enterprise. If you have an Enterprise store, let me know. I'd love to talk to somebody, back and forth about the Enterprise, just what they sell. It'd be amazing to see, and how much they have. So that's it, starter, basic, premium, anchor. And the anchor, so from basic to anchor, you get the same, but on the anchor, you get that one dedicated support. We're going to talk about the listing limits here in a second. Now, also, this is all coming from eBay. I didn't make this stuff up. I'm just doing screenshots from eBay. And like I said before, make sure you vet it out with eBay, because they can make changes to this stuff. They usually try to let us know, but you always want to check with them. If you have any questions about it, you call them and get it before you press the button and stuff like that. But the starter store, they say, is best for sellers who have a handful of products. You're cleaning out your house, got a few things, or you just started. The basic store is unlocked to 0 listing fees. You can get up to 11,000 listings for a postcard category, or 1,000 in there. So you got a lot of stuff in there. Maybe you bought a bunch of stuff at a storage unit or an auction and stuff. eBay branded supplies. That's another thing between the basic, premium, and anchor. Now, don't quote me on this. I didn't find any information exactly. I think it's basic is $25, premium is $50, and anchor is $150. With the basic, premium, and anchor, they give you a number, a discount subscription code that you can buy boxes, eBay boxes and stuff like that from the eBay place on there. And then when you put that code in, it gives you a discount, and they're free. So the first 25 or the first 50 or first 75 or 150, whatever it is in there, you can get boxes. I had a toy store, which was a premium, and then I had the anchor store, so I was getting $200 a month or something like that, or a quarter. Every 3 months you get this. So I really cut my box cost down. So that's, with those higher ones, you kind of get the money back if you sell a lot of stuff that uses boxes or supplies like that. They got some neat envelopes and stuff, but they don't have as much as they used to. They used to have some stuff, but the quality of their envelopes aren't too bad, the brown ones and stuff. So that's another kicker you want to look into. And when you go to buy it, make sure you put the code in, otherwise they're going to charge you. You still got to pay the sales tax on there, so there will be a little charge or if it goes over. Then let's get into the number of listings. On the left side there, I put a nice little chart I found of the charges. So like the starter for monthly and yearly. So there is a big difference when you get the basic and premium, like $75 basically for a premium, or $60. So it's a $15 a month savings if you commit to a year. $6 a month for basic. And then when you get into anchor, you're talking it's a $50 swing. So if you commit to them, there'll be a discount. That's how most of the stuff, that's how you can do savings. But if you don't want to commit for a year because you're not for sure, that's the best way to do it. On the right side here is the number of listings for each store. I found a nice little chart here. Now, I don't do much with auctions. I'll let you deal with that, but that tells you how many free auctions you can have in each one. And I think that there's a little increase with selected categories. But the big thing is on the right side. Starter store, you get 250 free listings. Anything over that, you pay 30 cents for each listing, and that gets charged every month. It redoes itself. This is for a 30-day period. It resets itself every 30 days. It's going to reset it. You can use up to 250 in January. It sets to 0 in February. It counts them up, and you'll just keep running. So if you keep going over, you're going to be paying 30 cents, and it can add up over time. The basic store, you can have 1,000 in categories, and then 10,000 in select, and postcards are in the selected categories. Anything over that, you have to pay a quarter, so it went down a nickel. The premium store, where I'm at, I can have 10,000 plus 50,000 additional in the selected categories, and it's only 10 cents more. So when I reach 60,000, how many 10-cent ones do I get before I have to pay the $300 to add more? So that's the point. I think it's about 1,000, 1,500 where going to the anchor you save, because over time you're going to pay that every month. So I figured it's about 1,000 to 1,500 more listings than jump into an anchor is cheaper. I just tell people jump. Get listings off the table, and then enterprise. But anchor, you can have 25,000 in the categories plus 75,000. So it's 40,000 more and stuff like that. What am I going to do when I hit that number? It's going to be another year or so before I even come close to that if I do it. I don't think I'll go above a premium. I don't think I'll go back to anchor. I think it'll be, just because everybody watching the videos knows I'm slowing down a little bit. Premium will be fine. I don't want that overhead of the $300 a month. But those are the listings, and those are the store levels. If you're going to sell postcards, quantity rules of the average cards. Hard to find. Real photos and stuff sell themselves. But if you're going to be doing a lot of listings, you need to have a store. The days of the old eBay of counting how many free listings and you have every month and what you use in auctions, quantity is the number anymore. Some people out there say no, but in the postcard world, that's what I found. The more you list, the more you sell. That's the poll. Got any questions about stores, put it in the comments. If I can't answer it, I'm sure somebody out there can. And that's how I learned about the listings. I thought I was at 50,000, but it's 60,000 because of the other 10. I was putting it together. And that's why the community is so important, that you ask questions and people come out and reset you and say, yeah, no, Mark, you got 60,000. So that added another year. Because I think a full-time, someone that's dedicated to postcards can put 8 to 10,000 listings a year up is the average. So I'm at 44,000, basically 43,000. So I'll be over to 50, 60. So it adds another year. You sell another 5, 6, 7,000 a year. I'm going to be just fine. I'll be happy with what I got on there. That's the stores. Okay, now let's get into viewer comments. I only put 2 here since we went through all those numbers and geeked out in the store stuff, and it took a little bit longer. So I'm just going to do 2 viewer comments, and one of them is one that probably everybody knows about. The first one was an email I got from a person that's a reseller on eBay. This was about, I'm so upset and mad. I got my first return and bad feedback today. How do you deal with returns and feedback? Anything you can share would be great. I have a process for both. If I get bad feedback, I look at it, I put a request in and get it removed. If they don't remove it through the request tool, which is down in the video description, you can go there and just request it be removed. I give them a call. And if I can't get it resolved in a couple calls, I live with it. I'm not going to spend that much time on it. I'm not worried about someone else's opinion about something I sold that I could have done something wrong, or it wasn't wrong, it's just their opinion. They're not going to upset me. It's not personal. There's so many reasons why they're returning that or sending the feedback. Returns are reverse transactions to me. I sold something for $30 plus shipping. Customer gets it, doesn't like it, wants to return it. It's part of business. I don't get too many of those at all. Never have on there. You could have everything in the description right, the whole works, you can defend it all. It's not worth it. You can sit there and argue it. I don't have that many returns. I have free returns, no questions asked. Send it back. If I get it back, I'll return. If it's remorse, I don't give them shipping. But I don't sit there and worry about each one. But each one is dealt separately. Not all returns fall into the same bucket. Each one I look at separately and make a decision separately. But I think I've only had one in the postcards this year. I've only had one refund. And that person didn't get it, and I filed a claim and got the money back. That was it. Everything else so far has been good. But when you start reselling, there's 2 things you need to get over right away. And just get over it. Is feedback and returns. They will happen. They are part of the process, the business. It will happen. If you're living sale to sale, you need to work to a point where you're not doing that. When I have a $100 day selling postcards, I know that $100 is not my money until the customer gets it and it sits for a while, and basically 30 days. Usually if it's not returned in the first week or so, or any issues, then everything's probably going to be okay. That's the norm. But some people will, at the end of the month, get their credit card bills, it's higher, they'll start returning stuff. Or the husband says, hey, you got to return this because the bills are too high, or the wife. You're going to get that. So usually 30 days, it's your money. But they can still put a chargeback in at 180 days. So, but usually 30 days in my head. But if you're worried about that $30, you need that $30, you spend it, you don't have it anymore, you need to work to a point of not doing that. Let it go, get in the system, let that money soak, and then it should be okay. But returns will happen and feedback will happen, but don't let it upset your world. Bad feedback is you're the boss of your business. You doing reselling because you didn't want to work for somebody if you're full-time. Don't let these people push you. It's feedback, and I don't reply to feedbacks. I don't reply to emails and stuff. I take care of the problem, send it in. I had one person tell me that I had slow shipping. It was a U.S. post office issue, and I was a terrible seller and stuff like that. I just went and refunded his money. He refused the envelope with the postcards in it. I got them back. I didn't file a claim because I got the product back. You can't keep both. If you got the money and the product that you sold, you got to give one of them back. You just can't keep both. If somebody cancels an order or refuses it and it comes back, and I get it back and I still got the money, I refund them. Now if they want to return it and they never send the stuff back, I don't have both. I don't have the product and the money. All I got is the money, and I'm going to keep that because I don't have the product. So, but refunds and feedback, a lot of people get upset about that, and you will get upset and mad. It's human nature. You got to get over that stage real quick. It doesn't bother me. I can get 10 negatives. I'm doing things right the way I think so. Now, if I really screwed up, it's on me, and I own all that. I don't, at the stage of my life, I don't worry. People have opinions, and they just will bark them out, and returns will happen. Just have a process to deal with them. Make them open a case and run everything through the case in eBay. Don't do any returns and stuff outside of eBay. Run it through a case. They have a process there to help you work that. They can open a case, refund, send a label, or whatever. And if you don't like what eBay did, you can call them, but there is a point where you just got to stop and move on. That's your first one, is what I told them in email back to them, and the bad feedback. See if you can get it removed. If not, take the return, follow the process, open a case, get it done, move on. Part of reselling. And if you get a lot of them, you might want to look at why you're getting those. And cause I don't get many returns. They come in batches, but I don't let people bark at me. And I don't reply in the feedback thing. I just let people do what they do. But that's feedback and returns. But if you have any questions about that, look, there's a tool in the video description where you can go out and ask eBay to remove it or whatever. Next question. Coin Pusher King. I like that name. Coin Pusher King. Is he talking about one of those little toy things at the arcade where you put coins in and it goes like this and it keeps pushing the coins until you get the big stack or something? What site do you use to look up sold prices of postcards? Now remember, when you're out comping postcards, just because you see a bunch at $5.65 doesn't mean you have to sell it at $5.65. You can go higher, you can go lower. It just gives you a guideline. When I'm comping cards, I look at Worth Point, if you paid for that, eBay, sometimes HIP, if I'm searching for a hard to find one over, Card Cow, I put it in Google, Old Postcard Store, I think it's called. Different places will pop it up, especially in Google, and just what I paid for it too. So what did I pay for the card? How long do I expect to keep it? And what is the average price out there? So I throw all the high ones out and the low ones, and I kind of look for an average. And I look for a bucket, a price bucket that I have. Is it $4.65, $5.65, $7.65, $8.65, $10.65, or $12.65? What is the closest bucket to me? I kind of use comping a lot more for the outliers, the real low value cards or the higher ones. And it tells me, is there more of a demand on them or what is sold out there. So most of the cards I do is $4 to $8. If it hits above $12.65, I move that to my research special folder, I call it, and that's where I'll do a little bit more research and see what's actually there, if I can get a couple extra more dollars. But just because 10 of them sold for $20 and there's a bunch out there listed for $2, where would you put that card? You gotta play with the numbers. It's just, those are just reference marks to do things. You can always price it to whatever you want, but if you want it to sell, you gotta have products that people want, postcards that people want, with a price that they'll buy it at. They don't do all the research we do, so it depends on what your pricing is. But it's Worth Point, eBay, probably the most, and then Google, and then I use Google Image. I'll put an image out there, especially international, and on the right side it'll pop up some cards that it found from the image and stuff. So there are many different places to do that. That's all I got today. Thanks for watching, and here's some fish to look at for a few moments. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.